Sort of.
Is that her?
Hi to those on Zoom.
Yes, hi.
All right, so we're going to begin. I see some new faces, which is always great, and I see some familiar faces, which is even better. So that's great. Love you guys coming back too. So I'm Ed Katz, and I was a theater and film critic for a radio station in Connecticut for a couple of years, and they actually had me back recently for a while, just to do some more streaming reviews, and we'll see if that continues. I don't know. But I do marketing by day, but this is what I do by night and on weekends, as Ann will attest to. So first off, I got to ask the question, how many liked the film? Okay, oh, there we go.
It was different. It was unusual.
Okay. And who did not like the film? Oh, okay. Especially on that side. All right. So it's like 2/3 liked it, 1/3 didn't. Any on the fence? Totally in the middle? A couple in the middle. Okay. All right. Yeah, there they are. Okay. All right. So Lost in Translation, Lost in Translation on Rotten Tomatoes has a 95% from critics, 85% from audiences, and a 7.7 from IMDb, which is considered very good. Anything over 7 is good. And the Rotten Tomatoes summation is a lonely aging movie star played by Bill Murray and a conflicted newlywed played by Scarlett Johansson meet in Tokyo. Murray is there to film a Japanese whiskey commercial. Scarlett is accompanying her celebrity photographer husband. The strangers find escape, distraction, and understanding. They form a bond that is as unlikely as it is heartfelt and meaningful. Anyone want to argue that? Okay. All right, the budget for the film was $4 million, which back when it was made in 2003 was equivalent to just under 7 million today. The box office in America was 44.5 million in North America and 120 million worldwide, which is about the equivalent of 200 million. So pretty big hit for a very small budget.
When was that?
2003.
Right, so it's not now. It's 2003.
Yes. Yep. 2003 dollars. Yep. So it was made by Sophia Coppola. I guess everyone knows who her father is, right? Okay. Did everyone hit the sign-up sheet? Good. All right. And she is known for her distinct aesthetic, quiet yet emotionally charged storytelling and exploration of themes like isolation, fame, and privilege. Just like her father, right? No, completely different from her father.
Very opposite.
So that I thought was pretty fascinating. She's made several films. This is considered her best. But her first one was also highly regarded, The Virgin Suicides. Anyone familiar with that one?
I've heard of it.
Okay. That was from 1999, so 4 years previously. Recently, she made Priscilla, her take on Priscilla Presley's life, and that got pretty good reviews. In between, she did Marie Antoinette, that some people really liked and some didn't. The Beguiled, Somewhere, The Bling Ring, which was kind of a shallow story, but a fun one based on real life celebrity robberies in the Hollywood area. And she did a holiday special for Netflix, A Very Murray Christmas with Murray. It was just pretty much for fun. Okay, so now I asked, of course, AI. I wanted to get AI's take on Lost in Translation. And it called this a beautifully nuanced film about loneliness, cultural disconnection, and human connection. Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson give subtle, deeply felt performances, gorgeous cinematography capturing Tokyo's neon-lit melancholy. It won Coppola the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. Negatives: accusations of racial insensitivity in the depiction of Japanese characters, and the ambiguous ending frustrates some viewers. Anyone agree with any of those?
Oh, it wasn't terrible. So you don't know what he whispered, that's all. But you can guess. So what's the difference?
I want to discuss the whispering at the end. We'll get to that in quite a bit of detail, actually.
It's not making me want to visit Tokyo.
It made me
For
hate
sure.
Tokyo. I kept thinking about if someone with autism or really walked in there, I was getting so much sensory overload
Yeah.
from the outside versus them being inside.
Yep.
The quiet of the monks, the loudness of Tokyo. I
No,
really
right.
thought a lot about those things. when
Yeah,
I was
didn't it remind you
watching it.
of
The
Times Square, like way back?
Not even, it was worse.
Worse.
And
Okay.
it also felt like you were inside a carnival
Yes.
that wouldn't stop.
Right. Well, they were in the arcades a lot, and I think
Yes.
that was
Part of
intentional
it, but also
to show the
neon
arcade there and
streets and the traffic and
right,
yelling, a
Right.
lot of noise.
right.
Yeah.
right.
Just-
Yes.
And crowds.
I watched the movie the minute the stereotype in the very
Possibly,
beginning
but
with
I
the
was
commercial.
thinking you can't stand
That
The stereotype, you mean when they were doing the commercial shoot?
Yeah, with the Japanese language. I mean, I don't think you could get away with it today.
That's a question I was going to ask you guys, right?
Yes. That turned me off
Wait, which,
almost immediately. Empathy for these two characters. I really could not build an empathy for them.
so they do.
The movie should have been called Two Lost Souls.
Yeah.
Okay. So you thought it should have been called Two Lost Souls. You guys hear her okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But everybody
Lost
was
in
lost
translation is
in
much
that
better.
movie. I think about those kids at the video game.
The video game, yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the world is all out there, that sensory overload.
The sensory overload, right,
Yeah.
right.
But nobody was connected.
Right, and I think that's part of the point of the whole movie. And that's the kind of movie she makes, is about that isolation. Yes, Anne.
We were just in Tokyo a few months ago,
Mm.
and the scene in the elevator first start, and Scarlett sees Bill Murray, and they smile at each other. But did you see how everybody else was facing forward and not
And
connected?
not moving or connect, right.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Going to club.
Well, that was the other thing I was gonna say. I mean, I made notes as I was watching it, and I noted right away about Bill Murray in the elevator. Not only is he the only Caucasian, he's a foot taller than everybody. And I looked up how tall he was. He's 6'3", 6'2", 6'3". So he's a tall guy to start with, but obviously, the Japanese people tend not to be as nearly as tall, and they really, I think, overemphasize that just to make the point of, again, him being isolated and alone and different.
And that's when they met eye contact because they were looking around, but everybody else. was
Right, they were looking around.
There was somebody.
Yeah.
No, just the middle one.
Good point. Right, the little girl in the elevator was looking around, and the father sort of like stopped her from doing that.
In my
Good point.
readings on Japan, never been there. Because the islands are so small and it's so overpopulated, they have learned to be completely remote in their own private space. But they had the public bathing, you are completely unto yourself. So it's a response to a cultural situation, too little space and too many people.
I don't know. I think even in the outskirts of Tokyo, when we were there, that's how people reacted. It's cultural, I think, not so much from the crowd, it's from just the way they're brought up, the way they see the world.
Okay. Yes.
I was just so taken aback because when we were in Japan
How long ago was this?
quite a while ago, we were actually in Yokohama, but then we were also in Tokyo. Culturally, it's impolite to look at people.
Right.
And we took trains out, and you would have to, even in the train. it's very-
So it's quiet in the trains, and I'm just like, make sure people can hear it, and it was impolite to look at other people, basically.
Yeah.
Yes.
New York City, it's the same thing.
I wouldn't say it.
Hardly.
You don't want to get shot. Why is that saying?
I can tell you.
Keep your eyes down.
The other thing was how quiet it was when was afraid to go into the monastery, to the temple. And so I felt like the contrast between noise that I could almost not look at the screen. It was so overwhelming. And then you saw how silent the monks were. And she was almost afraid.
Well, he said later when she was on the phone with, and they don't make it clear. I was thinking it's maybe she's calling her mother, but it must have been a friend because she used her first name, but it wasn't clear who she was calling. She said how she went to a religious temple and felt nothing. And she was concerned. Then she tried to have a serious discussion, but whether her friend or her mother was busy.
Yeah, I remember.
And couldn't deal with her. So she just kind of brushed it off. Oh, have a nice time, whatever, which again kind of goes to the isolation and loneliness and the separation you can feel. So she couldn't connect even with someone who, again, her mother or friend, someone she was thinking she was close with, she was unable to connect or reconnect with. Okay, so what did you guys think of the casting of Bill Murray? I have to ask you that.
I didn't know he was such a good actor. I was thinking of him as yeah.
This was his only Oscar nomination, by the way. But okay, so she wrote this film with him in mind for the part, but it took her 5 months to convince him to do it.
I thought he was perfect for her.
Well, again, she wrote it with him in mind, so you would hope, right? But I thought it was interesting. She said she left close to 100 voicemails on his. So the way he doesn't have an agent, and at least at this point in time, he had fired his agent, and the only way he was getting offers was there was a secret number that went right to voicemail, and he would listen to the messages when he felt like it, and call back whoever he felt like calling back. And she said she left about 100, and she said she wasn't exaggerating over weeks and whatever. Messages to get him to call her to talk about this.
But he's
And he's known for that. Yes, he is. Right. Yeah, he is. And and I guess Wes Anderson, who he's made several films with, helped facilitate this because they're close. And he's made, like I said, he's made several films with Wes Anderson, and I guess that helped. So their connection there. Okay, so Sophia Coppola was nominated for Best Screenplay, which I thought was pretty cool. She was also not only the writer, but the director as well. So kudos to her for kind of breaking ground and inspiring other women, because I think she's the only woman who's ever been nominated for have a Best Picture nomination and a Best Screenplay. I'm not sure if she got Best Director nomination. She might have. So, but that's pretty impressive. So while her father's films are known for being grand and epic, hers are intimate and restrained, showing how she developed her own approach despite growing up in a cinematic dynasty. And she's known for her atmospheric storytelling, themes of isolation, visually stunning cinematography. So I thought that was kind of cool. All right. And I wanted to get to a little about Bill Murray. So he joined Saturday Night Live in 1977, actually replacing Chevy Chase in the second season. He ended up having a fight with Chevy Chase, but they made up. And that helped open the doors. His breakout films were Caddyshack in 1980, Stripes in 81. Do you remember him in Tootsie?
Yeah.
Tootsie. He was the roommate of Dustin Hoffman.
Right.
In Tootsie. And he had the best low-key humor, watching all the craziness going on, and he just would throw out lines, a lot of which he improvised, and they were just perfect. And then, of course, Ghostbusters with superstardom, and he did Scrooged. So that was all the 1980s. In the 90s, he did Groundhog Day, which I had a terrific role, terrific film. He had a small part in Ed Wood, Tim Burton's film about possibly the worst director who ever lived. And he was in Rushmore, which started his collaborations with Wes Anderson.
They said he should have got the Academy Award for Rushmore.
A supporting actor, yeah, he was terrific in it. He was really terrific in it. He did others that were kind of quirky. The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which was a Wes Anderson movie, but it was pretty quirky. And then Broken Flowers, which I didn't think was really a successful film, but Jim Jarmusch, who he admired, so he started doing work with him some. Hasn't done too much great since 2010, but he did work with Wes Anderson. He has a few good ones. The Grand Budapest Hotel, he had a part in. Isle of Dogs, he was a voice, and then The French Dispatch more recently. Oh, he's also known for making random public appearances. He will crash weddings and guest bartend. He's uninvited, he'll just bartend. And he shows up unannounced at people's homes kind of randomly sometimes.
Where does he live? In LA?
Yeah, he's in California, LA area. He was arrested for smuggling marijuana at the age of 20 while in college, 10 pounds at the airport. He avoided jail time but had due probation. He was considered for the lead role of Forrest Gump and turned it down.
Oh, my gosh.
How about that? So he was the choice ahead of Tom Hanks. Interesting. He took Ghostbusters on a whim. He agreed to do it only if the studio financed his passion project, The Razor's Edge, a dramatic film that flopped and really wasn't great. I didn't think, anyway. He did have a feud with Chevy Chase. They had a backstage fight on Saturday Night Live set, but they did later reconcile. He was considered for Batman before Michael Keaton got the part. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, he was 52, they said, when he made this movie. Anyone want to guess how old Scarlett Johansson was?
17.
And she was playing like 22.
Yes.
So that was pretty. So she had she transitioned from an indie darling to a blockbuster superstar while maintaining credibility as a dramatic actress. She's worked with some of the best directors, taken on a wide variety of roles, and become one of the highest grossing actresses of all time. Ann and I, years ago when we were still up north, there was a like Oscar trivia night contest, and I won tickets to go. Ann and I went to go see her interviewed for Inside the Actors Studio. Remember that show?
I remember.
So we got to see Scarlett Johansson interviewed, which was pretty cool. She started acting as a child, made her film debut in a movie called North at 9 years old in 1994. She was in The Horse Whisperer in 1998. And she played a young girl dealing with trauma. She was in Ghost World, an indie cult classic, and then Lost in Translation. And then, gosh, I guess it was the same year she did The Girl with the Pearl Earring, which I remember Ann and I saw in the theater.
Yes.
Famous painting.
That was
And she kind of became Woody Allen's muse. Remember she was in Woody Allen movies? I didn't remember how many. It was Match Point in 2005, Scoop in 2006, Vicky Cristina Barcelona in 2008. So 3 Woody Allens all within a few years.
I don't think.
She actually tried music. She released an album in 2008 called Anywhere I Lay My Head, which consisted mostly of Tom Waits covers. You guys don't know who Tom Waits is? He's got the most gravelly voice ever. So critics were not impressed. She did Iron Man 2, and that was kind of where she started doing Black Widow, and kept doing the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies Black Widow, which became very popular. She was in the Avengers playing Black Widow several times. And that's obviously her huge paychecks came from that. She's one of the highest paid actresses in Hollywood. She did in the movie Her. Anyone see Her?
Yeah, she was the voice.
She was the voice in the phone.
Oh,
The guy who has a romance with his phone. She was the voice. In Under the Skin, she played an alien seductress. She was in Lucy, where she played a woman who gained superhuman abilities. And Marriage Story, she got her first Oscar nomination.
That was good.
It was a woman going through a divorce. And the same year, 2019, Jojo Rabbit,
Yes.
the Holocaust film, and she was nominated for an Oscar in that for as a supporting actress as the mother of the main character. So yeah, she's had a very unique career. She also sued Disney over the streaming release of Black Widow, arguing that it cut into her box office earnings because it promised in the contract that it would be released to the box office first. Disney decided to change their mind. She wasn't happy about it, sued them, and got an out-of-court settlement.
Question.
Yeah.
Yes.
How old is Scarlett?
Yes, you have a comment? Jeremiah, question, comment?
No.
Okay, then maybe you. Okay, Asteroid City, she was in that as well. And she's looking at a project with Channing Tatum for Apple. I don't know if that'll happen or not.
Children? Do you have any children?
Yes.
Yes, she does. I'll get to her. She's got she was married to two famous men. First, Ryan Reynolds, and currently Colin Jost of Saturday Night Live. And I lost the connection, but she was in a Spike Jonze movie, and Spike Jonze used to be Sophia Coppola's husband.
Right, really?
40 in December.
Oh, her parents are Danish and Polish Jewish. She holds dual citizenship in the U.S. and Denmark.
I thought she was like ridiculous.
Now, does anyone remember Giovanni Ribisi?
Sure,
Yep.
Okay.
absolutely.
He was the one who played her husband in the movie, John. He tends to play not likable characters generally. He was in Friends for a few episodes, playing Phoebe's brother. The one she had the triplets, surrogate, and it was for her brother and his wife.
Didn't he play in the other sister? The boyfriend?
He was in
daughter?
The Other Sister. Yes, good. I didn't remember that movie at all. So yep, you got it. He was in The Other Sister with Juliette Lewis, right? Right. He had a part in Saving Private Ryan. He was also in Ted and Ted 2 about the teddy bear that comes to life. He was also in Avatar. He
Yes.
played Parker in Avatar, both Avatars, and he was in The Boiler Room, the Alec Baldwin movie about the compromised. He played a morally compromised stockbroker, and
There was one with Kate Blanchett. It had supernatural qualities.
right,
Like he
The
came
Gift.
back from the dead.
The
Yeah.
Gift, right? He was in The Gift with Kate Blanchett, and his most prominent role, or consistently anyway, was Sneaky Pete. He was Marius in Sneaky Pete, which he co-created with Bryan Cranston. So he is a Scientologist.
We don't know those.
Grew up in a family involved in the Church of Scientology. Before becoming an actor, he started out doing voiceover work for animated series and commercials as a kid. And his first real role was a small role as a young soldier in the Wonder Years. You remember the Wonder Years?
By the way, did you know that there was a Church of Scientology in Boca?
I didn't, but it
Now,
was
I don't
surprising.
think it's still there, but the building's still there.
Yeah.
And I went to look at it once. It was curious.
Yeah.
So I went to a meeting.
You went to a meeting?
Really
Oh,
different,
wow. Yeah.
I'll bet.
but they still collected money.
Yes, I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. Okay. Anna Faris. Anyone remember Anna Faris in the movie?
The
No, not the singer. She was the action movie actress doing the interviews who
Yeah.
recognized John,
Right.
Giovanni Ribisi's character. So she really became kind of famous from doing Scary Movie and the sequels. She, I guess, lived in those movies where it's a comedy movie. It's like a slasher movie, but it's also funny, making fun of slasher movies.
Leave it
And then the whole like Scary Movie 5 that goes up to or something. So she was in 1, 2, 3, and 4. She starred in The House Bunny, and let's see, lost in translation. Oh, so her part, there's rumors which Sophia Coppola denied, but her part in this film was supposedly based on Cameron Diaz. So of course, Sophia Coppola was, I think, wise enough to deny that there was any truth to that. I don't know if there is or not, but I've read it in a couple places, so that was interesting. And she was in, I remember seeing her in Entourage. If you ever saw the show Entourage, she had a few episodes as the girlfriend of the lead character. But she was also in the TV show Mom with Allison Janney playing her mother.
That's right. I
And
watched
that was like 7 seasons.
Yeah.
So she was almost cast as the lead in Ghostbusters when they made the female version of it in 2016, but the role went to Kristen Wiig. She has a successful podcast called Anna Faris is Unqualified, where she gives comedic and heartfelt relationship advice. And before Scary Movie, she had never done comedy. She considered herself a dramatic actress. She has 2 interesting things that happened to her, not really good. In Thanksgiving of 2019, she and her guests all got carbon monoxide poisoning at a Lake Tahoe rental cottage. And this year, beginning of this year, her home in Pacific Palisades was lost to the Palisades fire.
Wait,
Hey, anyone have any comments or
Oh.
anything they want to interject?
Tremendous amount.
Yes, Fred.
I had some issues with the very first 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The very first, I think we were set up in this movie, the very first 4 minutes, someone, maybe the star, was in peach underpants, with her legs bent
oh,
up.
that was her.
And that went on, it's not 1 minute, not 2, it went on for 4 minutes.
They always sat around, they always sat around.
The first third of the movie, she's walking around in the hotel room without pants on.
Yeah.
You know, I think she's trying, you know, and yet this movie was a beautiful love story. It was totally platonic.
Okay,
There's no
so
sex- there's no sex in this movie.
yeah, I was trying to find out about that, and I can tell you that opening shot was basically copied from an actual painting.
I think it's
It's a pretty famous painting. Can you just
and the Eastpointe.
cameras like just show them?
Yeah, because it's green. That's
Thing right above the computer. There you go. Good job. Okay.
What's
All
the
right.
painting?
What is it? What is
So,
it?
okay.
Let me see.
I need to see it because I have my notes there. Thanks. Okay. So it's John Caceres Juta or Utah.
So that was dancing.
It's like almost exact, other than the color of the underpants that she's sort of wearing. So yeah, but well, they're kind of see-through. They're translucent at the very least. Now I also read that in one place
At least they weren't thongs.
the painting in her room this was also the painting in her room. I didn't see that. Guys, please. Did you guys see that the painting in her room? I didn't see it, but one of the an article I read about it that was actually written and published on Anne's birthday of this year in January said that was the painting and it was in the room in the hotel. I didn't see it, which I do kind of usually look for those things, so I'm disappointed I missed it. But
Watch it
You
again.
can watch it again.
well, we watched it twice, but so there's a lot of subjectivity on it, and it kind of goes to the ending where she never explained why she did it, and she wouldn't explain about the ending other than I'll get to the ending later. But she didn't fully explain it, other than it gets to the point of voyeurism a little, and we're watching what's going on with these couple. I mean, all film is to an extent, voyeurism is just to the degree. So what we're doing is we're watching this couple sort of have a relationship. And here, and of course, Bill Murray obviously is fond of her, but he's attracted to her, you can tell. He's definitely got a marriage that's failing. So he was attracted to her. You don't really know. I mean, she feels something for him. You don't know if it's an attraction, and they never want to specify it. Especially since real life, she was underage. That's even creepier, but she's playing a 22-year-old. So I guess that makes it better. But it's setting up tone, and it possibly could be for contrast in what's going on, but it's also just to kind of bring you in and I think alert you to the fact that this has to do with voyeurism to an extent. That's my take on it. I couldn't find too much more than that, but I will read you what this article said about it because I thought it was pretty cool. And I made my notes when I watched it, and then just going online searching, I found this article that was written just last month. And the guy, like note for note, his notes matched mine. He going in a little more detail, but he had a great answer for the ending of the movie, which I'll read to you guys to kind of close the discussion, I think. But yes, Elizabeth.
Was it like?
What's that?
It could not have been made today, because after Me Too, it could never have been made.
Well, I don't know about
Nobody
that.
would believe
I don't.
Nobody
Yeah,
would believe a young girl.
but again, you know, right, they never actually. You never see them having any
No,
sexual
no,
relationship.
but it
So
would be very difficult.
yeah,
People
it would be
have
more
to-
challenging to do now. I
Very
agree with that.
different today
Yes,
than it was
David.
then.
Yes,
I think she was like a child seductress.
right.
And they kept sucking us in with you were saying that, and to get that feeling that she was kind of, I don't know, manipulative. I don't know if she was manipulative per se, but it was thinking about the age, thinking about that. She was like it was a little bit of child porn in some ways, and bringing us to think that there was more to it and which didn't occur. I mean, he was more like a father to her in many respects.
Right.
Both through lost souls. He
Right.
cared deeply for her.
Right.
I didn't get the same strength of that.
Yes.
It was like a-
Elizabeth, 1 second.
I didn't think that she was a seductress. I thought that she was naive. I thought she was a naive. And that she was, as you say, fatherly toward her. Because she had no pretense. She brought him to her contemporaries when they went to a party. And she showed him how she behaved with her contemporaries. She
Right.
wasn't putting on anything.
No, she wasn't
Yeah.
changing her behavior for him that I could tell. And I wouldn't say she was manipulative at all. In fact, the opposite. When she was talking with him, when they were laying there candidly, she was kind of aimless.
Yeah.
Right.
So she didn't know what life was going to hold for her. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
So I thought that the whole movie was about like, acknowledging each other's pain. And I think a lot of that was there was symbolism with the feet that I picked up on.
With
So,
what?
With the feet.
Feet.
So nobody really acknowledged her pain, like especially at the beginning. Like whoever she was on the phone with
Right.
did,
Right.
and her husband definitely did.
Oh.
And so she stubbed her toe.
Right.
And she doesn't really make a big deal out of it. So it was first the emotional pain, now it's the physical pain.
Right. Which, and just to your point, we never see the foot injury at all, except on the x-ray thing. But we never see her foot in any pain. So you're thinking it's internal pain instead, right? Good point. Yep.
Then Bill Murray is the only person to say, hey, you should go to the hospital. And she's like, no. So she goes to the hospital, ends up being broken or something. And then later they're lying in bed
Right.
and he touches her foot. And they don't really touch like anywhere else, just her foot. So I think it's like they acknowledge each other.
Great. Great point. Thank you. Yes. Yes, Ruth.
Or what?
Okay.
Refer
to what was just on screen and bring it back.
What's going on? She leaves and you think.
And what was her reaction though?
She was jealous.
That's the question. Now, was she jealous or disappointed in him or both? I kind of thought it was both.
She was jealous of his time, maybe more than his sexual relationship.
Okay.
Well, I think that the affair with the redhead singer was indicating to us that
I wish I'd seen this
he was open to
24 hours ago
cheating,
instead of.
but that he was very protective of her. And he cared for her. They grew into this caring because they saw each other as individuals in this total cultural disconnection. It was so incredible that they found each other and they found kindred spirits. But I think he was very respectful of her.
Yes.
And I didn't see her as being at all manipulative. I saw her as being beautifully, exuberantly beguiling just because that's who she was.
Right. Yes, Harvey.
Filthy step to.
Damn, thoughts come and then they go, don't they?
That's only you, nobody else. You know, Hannah mentioned that the only time they touched was.
We would have had to pay money if we had gotten it.
Jeremiah, could you guys stop having talks? It's very difficult for us to hear.
Maybe you could mute.
Yeah,
We're
can
hearing you guys. So if you could mute, that would be great. Thank you.
While we're talking, I'm very sorry. I thought we were whispering, but
Don't worry about it. It's
okay.
fine.
If Ed, we inadvertently pushed something that gives us the magnification and the full screen, and you're in this little corner. Is there a way to fix
Okay.
it?
All right, you got to go hit the gallery view, but okay. In any event,
Just mute
just
yourself.
mute, please. Yep. Okay.
Mute yourselves.
All right, yes.
Lost in translation. Say when they were in bed, and this querulous look on his face, and she was just there too. But he moved his hand very slowly, and they touched the tip. He touched the tip of his pinky finger.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Right. Well, there was also the scene when they were sitting where she had the pink wig on in the hallway or whatever, and she put her head on his shoulder. So they were connected. You can see.
So
Yes,
I
Harvey.
remember,
Yes.
at some point, she says to him after she catches him with the redhead, with the singer, at some point later, she says, well, I mean, you were the same age, so you probably had other things.
A lot of things to do.
So I was less jealousy, I think, than just disappointment.
Right.
Oh, I thought she was being very sarcastic, almost mean with the way she said that.
She was, and then he gave her a line back where he talked about her looking for attention. Because if you remember the song she sang, it was Brass in Pocket by the Pretenders, and it's a song about a woman trying to catch a man's attention. So, yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How often do you think in this movie that you go into ad-libbing a line?
I read about that. It happened, but they didn't specify how much. He definitely did some, but they didn't specify which ones were ad-libbed. And I remember she wrote the part with him in mind, so it's probably a combination.
When they send a hooker to his room,
Yeah.
I mean, and when they were filming, it was right out of Saturday Night.
It was right out of Saturday Night.
Wait, Ed,
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, Rebecca.
there was a funny scene there in the hospital when
Oh,
he's
yeah.
talking to this curmudgeon guy, whatever this guy was.
Yeah, did you see the women in the back?
Oh, the two Japanese women in the background. I thought that was ad-libbed or whatever it was.
Yes.
And they were hysterical. They couldn't.
Yes, they were
stop laughing.
cracking up. Yeah.
And I thought that was a very funny scene to me. That was like the funniest scene because, you know, the first time I saw it years ago, I thought it was really good. This time, you know, not so much, but that scene was to me so funny. Oh my God.
Didn't you like the scene on the treadmill? I thought that was hysterical.
Who can remember that already?
And then when he goes to the shoot, he's limping. It's like, no, I'm fine. I'm
Oh,
fine.
yeah, right. Oh, and also when he did the commercial and the pins were on the back of the jacket, so it looked like the jacket fit him. And then
Yes.
he goes to dinner with her and all the pins are still on the back.
That's what I said. Yeah, right. I said he's still wearing the pins. Right.
He's still wearing all the clips.
That was great. All right. So I have to tell you a funny note. One sec. You remember where he came there to make the commercial for Suntory.
Yeah.
Where the inspiration came from that was Sophia Coppola's father did that in the late 70s. He went to Japan and made a commercial for Suntory whiskey. And that was what inspired her for this. Actually, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Yes, sir.
I just thought that these little islands of laughter of that side gag or pratfall or something like that was such a contrast of this slow ripping your guts out sometimes, waiting for something to there was a lot of things going on.
Yes, there was definitely a lot going on.
I have a question. Remember the scene where I didn't know if it was a wedding couple or she was a geisha?
Oh,
They were
yeah.
walking.
We thought it was a wedding.
It
I thought it
wasn't
was a wedding. Yeah.
That was just a question.
Yeah, that was the husband to be and the bride to be, which apparently they were in the process of getting married. They hadn't actually been married yet, right? That was the ceremony she was watching.
Why did they include that?
Yeah, it was strange. It's like out of-
Well, I think it showed, there's a couple things. The cultural difference in the marriage and the formality they had. But it also looked like the two did have some sort of a connection in their own cultural way. It was different from ours, which I think heightened again the isolation she felt. But then think about her situation with her marriage, with her husband, who's like there and then he's running out, there and running out, and he's leaving her. Oh, you want to come? Okay, yeah, you can come with us. Okay, but he really didn't want her to. So it was. I thought it was just the contrast in how the relationships are
It
done.
was also a beautiful piece of Japanese culture, to, put in a positive piece.
Right. And then the language issues. I mean, the lip my stockings. That was what the Suntory man sent the prostitute to his room, and she's like, and he's like, lip my stockings. But she meant rip. All right.
My first trip to Japan, I stayed in a hotel and I learned how to say in Japanese, how do you say this in Japanese, so that I could have some fun. I went to the gym and they had a desk where you could pick up your towel and lie. I said to the woman, how do you say, she handed me a locker key. I said, how do you say this in Japanese? Rocker key. So she gave, I said, okay, well, I'll ask about the towel. And how do you say, tower. So it didn't help.
Yeah, that was definitely part of it there. So I got some trivia notes that are kind of fun for this. You guys have any more comments first? Yes.
Yeah, the comment that she made, that her husband thinks she's a snob. The difference in their relationship.
Right.
And, they said, what, she's a Yale graduate.
Right.
They didn't talk about anybody else's background,
Right.
but a contrast in their relationship.
Right, right. And of course, he was defending the airheaded actress.
Yeah, who
Against
signed
her.
in as a man.
Signed in as Evelyn Waugh. Well, Evelyn, she thought it was Evelyn Waugh when she wrote it up. And then she's like, it was actually Evelyn. And by the way, it was a guy. Yeah, okay. Just to kind of, you're right, further heighten the disconnect between her and her husband. So, Sophia Coppola said that if Murray turned down the role, she wouldn't have done the movie.
Interesting.
Now, when they were starting filming, she wasn't sure if he was actually going to show up. He works without a management. He had only given her a verbal confirmation.
Wow.
While production was being set up in Tokyo with no sign of him, she started to get nervous, but was assured by Wes Anderson that he was a man of his word. And it was indeed. He landed in Tokyo 1 week before filming, and on they went. Sophia Coppola's father urged her to shoot the movie in high definition video because, quote, it's the future, unquote. But she chose film because she said it felt to her more romantic. The script can be found online. It wasn't written in the traditional sense, but more in terms of broad scene description that allowed for input for the actors. And many dialogue scenes were heavily improvised, including Bill Murray in the photo shoot and his conversation with Scarlett Johansson about his shiatsu massage. So Coppola, she became the first woman to be Oscar nominated for writing, directing, and producing in the same year, and she won for Best Original Screenplay. Filming and some of the scenes had to be done in secrecy because at certain locations, because the production was unable to get actual permission to shoot there. So when they were filming in the subway, for example, was one. They filmed the whole movie in 27 days. Coppola designed many of the shots for the film by taking a series of photos throughout Tokyo and then recreating them with the cast and crew using the photos as reference. Oh, remember the redheaded lounge singer? Catherine Lambert was the actress. She was not a professional actress. Sophia Coppola saw her performing in Tokyo in 2001. A year later, her producer, Ross Katz, no relation, from Elemental Films, which is based in New York, tracked down Catherine in South Australia and invited her to return to Tokyo to play, quote, the red-haired jazz singer. Okay, so now she based the character of Charlotte and her husband, John, on herself and her then husband, Spike Jonze. 10 years later, Scarlett Johansson worked with Spike Jonze on Her. He directed that movie where she was the voice, and he got the Best Original Screenplay Oscar. So the title in Spanish for the film in Latin America, Perdidos en Tokyo, and in China, Mishi Dangjin. Anyway, the titles all mean Lost in Tokyo. So they changed it.
What were the numbers in Japan? The European numbers were much better than the American numbers.
Yeah. Oh, all overseas. They didn't break it out. It was just all overseas. It was like 44 million in America, in North America, and then like 150 in the rest of the world.
So this was more like a European artsy film.
Yes. Which ironically, it kind of looks like a European directed movie, but here she is an American who made it. But anyway, the interesting thing about the title being lost in translation, they didn't translate it in these other countries, including Israel. So the titles were actually lost. And in Portuguese, it's love is a strange place. And in Polish, it was in between words. So they kept changing the title of Lost in Translation. Bill Murray enjoyed filming about what he really enjoyed in Tokyo was that he was hardly ever recognized. The whiskey that was being used for the commercial is 17-year-old Suntory Hibiki, which means resonance in Japan. It's won numerous awards, including World's Best Blended Whiskey. Bill Murray carried a Japanese phrase book called Making Out in Japanese, in which he would go around to sushi restaurants and asked the chefs if they had a curfew or if they would mind if he used protection. He was being interviewed on the Graham Norton show in 2007, and he mentioned that he learned a phrase along the lines of, "Who do you think you're talking to?" And he would mention it scaring other people.
Did you do that intentionally?
Yeah. So there was a song in the movie soundtrack called "Too Young," which was kind of interesting when you think about it. The band's singer has 2 children with Sophia Coppola.
Oh.
Okay, I don't want to get to that.
Question?
Yes.
Has any Japanese critics have any of their comments on it?
I looked at all the critic reviews I could see. I didn't see any from Japan. I saw plenty like translated from the Spanish or Portuguese or whatever. I didn't see any from Japan. I would have liked to. Yeah, I would have liked to. You remember the conversation in the sauna with the German tourists?
Yeah.
So what they were really saying, and I think they were ad-libbing, but to an extent, but it says, "I can hardly eat papayas anymore." At first, I was really happy. At first, I thought, well, at the beginning, yes. In Germany, I was looking forward to it. But in the meantime, yeah, now, after this, we'll go out and get something German to eat here. Okay, remember when the cameraman mentioned the Lat Pack?
Yeah.
The Rat Pack? Of all the members that Bob mentions, he leaves out Sammy Davis Jr., who actually did do ads for Suntory. That was kind of interesting. Now, you remember the arcade video game sounds, all those sounds there? None of those sounds actually came from those games. They overdubbed all the sound effects to make them even more, obnoxious. Yeah.
So what was racist about it that was mentioned?
The language issue, the butchering of the English language by them was considered to be used derogatorily to the Japanese people. Also,
Why was so bad?
Do you remember the movie Christmas Story? Anyone remember that movie? Yeah. The scene where they go out for the Japanese dinner because the dogs take away their dinner and they have to go to a Chinese restaurant. Actually, it's Chinese. The only restaurant that was open was Chinese on Christmas night. So the waiters are all speaking with the accent where they don't say the R's, and they were made fun of it. And it was one of the funniest scenes in the movie. Well, I think it was NBC did a musical version of that movie, and they totally changed that scene so it was more politically correct. Nobody laughed. Nobody laughed. It just wasn't funny. So it was politically correct, but it wasn't funny.
Also, they would speak
Right.
for like 30 or 40 seconds, giving him direction, and then the translator would say, "Sit up straighter."
Yeah.
Right.
That was
another. I'm glad you mentioned that because the translator was doing a horrible job translating. You could tell.
That's
He's
all.
like, "Is that all you really said?" He must have said more than that because he was talking for a long time. No, turn your head to right. Okay. So again, he was feeling lonely and isolated, and his facial expressions I thought were just classic.
That was the best part.
Well, that's why they chose Bill Murray.
Right.
Exactly that.
Right. Now, the ringtone that he had on his phone was Chopin's Fantasy Impromptu. So this whole movie, I think we could call that. The movie that Bob and Charlotte were watching. Anyone know what it was? The Italian movie?
A Dolce Vita.
Very good. La Dolce Vita. Fellini, of course.
Yeah.
My favorites. And we of course did a Fellini film.
Expert, right?
Yes, Anita Ekberg, exactly, in the Trevi Fountain. So this film is in Roger Ebert's Great Movies list, and also in the 1001 movies you must see before you die. So you can check this one off too, guys. You remember Bob was asked to channel Roger Moore? There's a karaoke, and then they do the karaoke performance, and they did Nobody Does It Better, which was one of Roger Moore's Bond movies, The Spy Who Loved Me. Feeling abandoned by her husband is not the only impetus for Charlotte's behavior. Her husband's shallow character is an obvious foil for her deeper nature, and all of the people her own age that she meets in Japan are equally vapid and immature. Thus, her relationship with Bob takes on much more significance by contrast. So I thought you guys made that kind of point well before earlier.
What I didn't understand was that she's always in her room. And get this, that this is her house, not a room in a hotel. Everything is there. And yet, when you would think that if she was getting bored, she'd go out with her friends. But she goes out with her friends. She takes him to meet what is her friend. I didn't just drifting along with her. I didn't understand why she didn't get out more often with her friends.
Well, as you could see, she didn't really connect with them because they really weren't her friends, or at least not good friends. Yeah, she didn't, everywhere she went, she felt isolated. So she might as well just stay in her room, which is to an extent what Bill Murray did. He was either at the bar getting drunk or in his room.
I was surprised that she tried to connect, like going to the monastery and going to arrange the flowers. She was really trying to penetrate the culture.
Right.
But she was like vague. That was inside of her that she wasn't connecting.
I think the word, she got out of college and the world fell on her.
Right. Right.
And she was given a lot. The character seemed to be very well taken care of. And then suddenly she's out of college and like, what do you plan to do? Or
she had no idea.
She was drifting.
Right. Yeah, she was aimless.
What were the last words?
Yeah, we want to know.
Okay, time to get to that. Okay, so I'll oh yeah, what do you guys think Bill Murray said to her?
I think he said something. Like a friend, and he would think of her and of her.
Okay. But he
got out of the
said
car.
something and then he said okay, and she said okay back.
Yeah,
Well,
I think he said, I'll meet you in LA. I agree with him.
That was
gonna be continued, yes.
all right.
It was a meaningful kiss. It was a meaningful kiss.
That was a real kiss.
Right.
He
That was
said,
a real
although
kiss.
I have to
Wasn't a
go,
Yeah.
we'll meet again.
Okay.
Yeah, but that wasn't planned. Supposedly.
All right, so
Yeah. It sounded-
Sophia Coppola says that although she knew early on about what the first shot would be, she's unsure why she chose it. Just as with the question of Bob's whispered words to Charlotte, we're free as viewers to explore our own idea what it means. Now, what Coppola also said was she told Bill Murray to say whatever he wanted because we're not going to hear it and we'll dub it in later when I write it. I'm not sure what to put there. And then when she was looking at it, she's like, let's leave it. So this guy, where was his name? He wrote The Art of Conversation. And he did this article on the movie, and this was the one that was published on Anne's birthday this year, just last month. So, okay. So in a 2018 interview with Little White Lies, Coppola said that what Bill whispers to Scarlett was never intended to be anything. I was going to figure it out later and add it in, and we never did. She'd workshopped a bunch of potential lines, none of which held the requisite power for such a moment. So she told Bill Murray to say whatever he liked in the moment. Not even she knows what he chose to whisper, and as she suggested, it never really mattered what words he chose. It was always about what the secret meant to them.
Right.
So here we were being the outsiders, watching them have a moment of connection. So that to me was like kind of the poetic ending. I thought that was pretty cool.
As two actors.
And it was lost in translation for us.
Right, exactly. Exactly, you got it.
I have a question about the one scene where he's taking time and he's golfing.
Yes.
He's in Tokyo.
Yep.
And there's Mount Fuji,
Yeah.
which is nowhere near Tokyo.
No.
And it was too early for digital golf.
No, it was a real golf
Was it
club.
real?
It was a real golf club he went to.
He was a golf nut. Remember, he's a real golf.
Yeah, I mean, you could see he had a really good
You
swing.
can see
Golf
a
is a big
swing.
part of life, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was that. It existed at that point that they had some sort of a digital.
I was waiting for the ball to hit a screen.
That's what I did.
I was waiting.
Because I watched it the second time and I
Yeah.
wanted to say,
Yeah.
I don't see the ball hitting a screen. It's just
Yeah.
going. And then you do see him starting to walk there. It's like, oh, okay, I guess it's real. But I wasn't sure at first. I thought it was, especially having us recently watch the Tiger Woods things from here in Palm Beach
Yeah.
Gardens,
Right.
where they're hitting against the off the tee to a screen, and then they do the real putting
Yeah.
there. But no, it's apparently it's real. It's a real country club. Okay, so we might ask ourselves, even as we wonder what Bob whispered to Charlotte, what does it mean that he told her anything at all in this final moment? And what does it mean that we don't get to know what he said? There are as many answers to that last question as there are viewers of Lost in Translation. Coppola's film draws our attention to two things, one via the other. First, it makes us aware of the act of watching. Then it reminds us that we don't simply see, we must interpret what we see. We must continually ask ourselves as engaged film watchers, what does it mean to see what I am seeing? This is the philosophical bedrock on which cinema exists as an art form. All cinema is voyeurism. At its best, it's a self-reflective voyeurism that discovers what's beneath and inside our looking. The painting was called Judah, and he's a famous photorealist who specialized in photographing women in lingerie. It's John Casseri. So, how are we on time? Oh, good. Right at an hour. Okay.
Are you gonna talk about the kids?
Want to talk about the kiss?
I just was surprised because it looked like a romantic kiss.
Yes, it was. He had real feelings for her, sure.
Yes, but he'd been so fatherly and respectful all this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I thought, well, maybe he did tell her, my life is about to go through a change. I'm going to find you. Who knows?
You don't know.
But I was surprised.
Okay. I mean, he cared for her either way. He cared for her. So it was a big kiss.
This is you want to talk about the Academy Awards and what you think will.
Okay, the Academy Awards. Sunday night. Yeah, a little. My view is kind of, I have a post that's going out, I think tomorrow on it, on Katz Reviews on Facebook. Please watch, please follow. It's the ABCs. Anora, Brutalist, Conclave. Those are the three that have the best shot. And there's the W is the wild card, Wicked. So that's my quick take on it. No, I do not think Amelia Perez will win. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. And there's a lot of negativity about that movie. The Gaston, the actress, made a lot of comments on social media that alienated a big part of the voting audience. So I don't think that's going to happen. Amelia Perez. Yeah, I don't think that's
For
gonna
future, the real pain.
Real Pain. Yeah, we watched it. We watched it
last night. It's just.
I liked it. And didn't like it as much as I did, but I liked it.
Yeah.
Real Pain. Real Pain is on Hulu. You liked it?
Yeah. What?
Real Pain is on Hulu. All right, thank you for coming. I will email you guys about next. Wait, do many of you have Hulu? No, not so much. Okay. Yes. Yeah, so that's what I was gonna do, but there's one on Hulu I'd love to do, but we don't have Hulu.
Which one?
In and of itself, Derek Delgadio's In and of Itself. Phenomenal. It was Rebecca's pick. Rebecca's the one who told us about it. I got us.
Thanks, Ed, as always. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. One sec. Okay.